So round 2, Joe Mixon, CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara, Deebo Samuel, Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams, Mark Andrews, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, and Leonard Fournette. This wasn't as strong a round as the first round. So you can see here, players in orange are people who are right at the 16% advance rate. Players in green, good advance rates. Tyreek Hill absolutely rocketing. And then you can see that there's 6 different players who all had a negative advance rate. So looking back at it now, it kind of feels like this round there were a lot of traps, and in fantasy points over expected, you can see all those big red lines. They're all players in the negative. CeeDee Lamb had a great season, and Aaron Jones, and then Tyreek Hill. And apart from that, it was a little bit difficult to kind of get through. One of those players who really regressed was Leonard Fournette, career low in EPA per game, career low in breakaway yards, and Tampa Bay's DVOA dropped to 30th after being at 5th in 2021. Should we have kind of seen this coming? Because there was all the Fat Lenny rumors during camp, and then the offensive line slowly got more and more banged up, and then Rachaad White was there as well. He wasn't somebody I drafted a huge amount of, but I kind of stayed at about 80% market average. Was he somebody that you felt was primed to fail in 2022?
Not necessarily, because I wasn't worried about Rachaad White, and White was basically a roster clogger. Like, he didn't win any weeks for you. In the redraft league, you never really could start him because Leonard Fournette was still leading the team in touches. So I think it more or less came down to the Bucs offensive line issues and ranking dead last in yards before contact per attempt on early downs, even though they were a team that tried to run the ball on early downs for whatever reason. So I blame that situation on Fournette. But as you mentioned, Leonard Fournette's also a free agent. We're not expecting him to be back at the Bucs because we're not expecting Tom Brady to be back with the Bucs. And so whomever is under center next will not only have a new OC for Tampa Bay, but also he'll probably have a full-time Rachaad White, who is at least part of the same coaching staff, assuming Todd Bowles stays on, of the regime that drafted Rachaad White. So I would imagine they have a lot of confidence in White over any other option they have. So I think there's a situation more where we could be drafting Rachaad White significantly higher than Leonard Fournette, depending on the situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think Leonard Fournette, he's got a couple more years on his contract, but he's very easy to cut, and it just feels like without Tom Brady, there's just no point having him there. So Leonard Fournette definitely disappointed, but one player who didn't was Tyreek Hill. He was the PPR wide receiver 2, 21 points per game, 3.3 yards per route run, which was the first in deep targets for 37, and he had the second most targets for 165. I kind of look back now and feel like, how did we not see this coming? I mean, we know that Mike McDaniel came from San Francisco with these yak monsters, players being able to make Jimmy Garoppolo be fantasy viable. And there was a lot of talk consumed about, could Tua throw deep? But we just seem to get lost on the idea that he didn't really need to, and Tyreek Hill became one of the absolute steals of the second round.
And we have to see if Tua even returns in 2023, if he plays football again. I would imagine he does, but remember, he suffered 3 concussions in 3 months, and the last time he suffered that concussion prior to the Packers game, there were reports about him just questioning like whether he wanted to even play again because he got so down in the dumps and was mentally unhealthy that he was scared to return. And so we'll see what happens, but clearly we had a load of wide receivers to choose from. Remember, at the end of the second round, we were all deciphering in best ball last offseason whether it was going to be Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, or Michael Pittman. T. Higgins was also there, among others. And really the only players that got there were either A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill being more valuable than A.J. Brown because it was not a 1A, 1B situation with Jalen Waddle. Like, Tyreek Hill still led the team with a 31% target share from Tua compared to a 21% target share for Waddle. That's a vastly big difference. So yes, like, Tyreek Hill should very well be a top half, at the very least mid first round selection. And of course, if Tua's back, we are absolutely trusting him under Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, and just picking up on your point about wide receivers, that's what's really noticeable here in the second round. That CD Lamb had an at average advance rate, and then you look at Debo Samuel, who always felt like a bit of a trap with Trey Lance, wasn't even able to recreate magic with Jimmy G, and then got injured. Mike Evans regressed heavily. But one of the few other bright points of this round that I want to hit on quickly is Saquon Barkley. 2 years removed from an ACL, coming into a contract year, had career highs in rush attempts per game, 10-yard runs, rushing yards in general, he had a career high in, and missed tackles as well, he was in a career high. So it just feels like now we've seen enough evidence of these kind of running backs and even wide receivers who are second year removed from an ACL that they should be the kind of players that we were banking on. And Saquon was someone I was aggressive on early in the offseason when he was going in the third round. It just felt like an absolute gift, and he settled kind of towards the top of the second round. Was he somebody that you targeted a lot in best ball, John?
Yes, and by the summer, he started trending more towards the end of the first round as well. Barkley, obviously, the discount we got early on was why friend of the show, Pat Carrain, had the winning BBM3 lineup, because he took the Barkley discount to advantage and started his draft with Eckler and Barkley. And as we were saying all offseason, I was adamant that we needed to draft running backs to start. And in too many lineups, I went 3. So I went robust rather than starting with 2 and then scaling it back and taking apart the wide receivers with upside, like your Tyreek Hills, like your Mike Evans, T. Higgins, in the 3rd through 5th round. Because although they're volatile, remember we're playing a large field, top heavy tournament. Thus, it's important to remember running backs have higher ceilings than wide receivers, despite being more volatile. So we're not worried about like the bottom. Like we're shooting for the top only. So who cares about the volatility? Take on that risk rather than avoiding that risk. And it's something I think we should be looking at doing again this upcoming year. But are we going to get a Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara discount with players going in the second round? I don't know. We'll have to see where Jonathan Taylor and a few others stand, because right now free agency is dictating a lot of the early running backs and drafts.
Yeah, definitely. And there was a point where it was possible to even go kind of Eckler, Saquon, Kamara in your first 3 rounds, which at the time felt like a cheat code. And even for people who lean towards zero RB or are quite stoic to hero RB builds, that value felt far too good to pass up on.